And we're here. Welcome back to the Application to Admission podcast. Happy holiday season, almost kind of. Thanksgiving has passed and Christmas is on its way. But in the wonderful world of college admissions, it is decision time for the early action and early decision. Folks, I am Shareem Herndon Brown, co-host of Application to Admission, here with my good friend. He lets me call him that every now and then, Timothy L. Fields. Tim, how are you feeling today?
Hey, I am feeling great. I am feeling great. Early decision release is upon us, so we're about to, share some good news with some students.
Good news, Tim. Tim, you sharing good news exclusively?
Hey, let me finish.
Oh,
Some good news with some students. There are other students that won't be receiving good news, but most importantly, one of the things that we like to do at Emory is we like to share either yes or no. We will not be deferring. We don't think that's not a good exercise, because if the answer is probably maybe in December, it's not going to get any better with regular decisions. So we try and have a yes or no. So we're going to focus on all the great yeses that we're sending out. For the no's that we send out, those people will have an opportunity over the holidays to think about what other great institutions are available to them, and they will end up in the right place, Shireen. I believe that.
I agree. And as my clients are hearing yeses and a few no's is going to come in, nobody bats a thousand.
I know. No, nobody has a no from you. No, the great work that you do
You're
as
right.
strategic admissions advice.
You're right, but I am not a magician, and I don't make decisions. I make suggestions, and sometimes people just don't listen. But overall, no, my clients are doing well. I'm very, very happy for them. Students who are hearing great news, congrats. Withdraw those other applications, please, if you applied early decision. And for those of you who, have not heard the great news that you want to hear, they call it a process for a reason. So I am a firm believer that a great application will be impressive to some schools. So I take everything with a hey, we're all going to be okay. Like a cat, you're going to land on your feet, right?
Yes, says Rick Clark. Shout out to Rick Clark in
Georgia
Brandon.
Tech doing big things. Did you know they beat Miami a couple weeks ago?
Whoa. Slow down, man.
My bad, my bad.
It's still a rough topic around the house. It's still a
Gotcha,
rough topic
gotcha.
around the
A
house.
month later, we're going to keep it to college application admission season. Um, I do want to remind everyone before we get into our very special guest today that I'm very excited about, with the holidays upon us, with January 1st deadlines coming up, please, parents, students, who's ever listening, please don't wait to the last minute. Please use this week and next week to get these things done so we can all enjoy the holidays the way we're supposed to, with family and friends and good football and food. It is a stressful time, but at the same time, you can be proactive. So, we're always here to give you information, but I want a little bit of a vacation as I celebrate 25 years of marriage on December 30th. Sheesh. You can see all that
Man,
gray hair.
congratulations. I thought you've been on vacation since November 1st, though.
You're right. I have been. You're right.
Okay, all right.
But
Just checking.
all right. Well, again, if you're not thinking about deadlines, great. The FAFSA has just been released. Please get on it if you're applying for financial aid. Scholarships are important. For those of you who are sophomores or junior families, it's your time to get the gears have shifted. Please be proactive. Please check out the resources on our on our web page, our website. Understanding the choices, we give you a timeline of when you should be doing things accordingly for the process. We want your 2025 to be awesome, but that starts with preparation now. I am now ready to lead because I'm going to take leadership on this podcast, Tim, because you normally take leadership, right?
I do. We'll see how this works out. We will see how this works out.
I am super excited about our guest today because, like I am an AI enthusiast. And I think it's very, very important that we have multiple voices, educators' voices in the conversation about artificial intelligence. And I feel like ever since ChatGPT was revealed to the world in mass in November, I'll say, of 2022, there's been a lot of confusion about it. Some people are skeptical. Some people are excited. A lot of kids have been caught cheating or if they've called plagiarism. But I really wanted an informed voice to share with us, share with our audience how AI is affecting college admissions and education overall. So I am super excited to introduce Emily Pacheco. She has Self, and I salute her on this as a thought leader for ethical AI and college admissions. With over 20 years of experience spanning admissions and international education, Emily's passionate about AI to enhance, not replace, very important, human connections. She believes it is the transformative potential of AI to create inclusive, personalized pathways for students while ensuring that the heart of education remains human-centered. Her day job, however, because that's just her passion project, her passion project of being one of the advisors in EdHub.ai, but her day job is working at Loyola University of Chicago as their California representative, their California admissions rep. So if I didn't make that 100% correct, Emily, you'll correct me. But Loyola University is very fortunate to have such a forward-thinking educator in their midst. And I'm glad that you are here to teach us more about how AI can be and should be ethical in college admissions. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We are fired up. We have a firestorm of questions for you. So I hope you had a sip of water.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So excited to be here. It's really an honor to be a part of this podcast. Thanks.
No worries, no worries. So again, when I reached out to you again, we have friends in common in the admissions world. I started reading your stuff online. I started following. It's like, hey, let me see what this is all about. Because in my opinion, I'm not going to speak for Tim. I think AI gets a bad name in the world of admissions because of quote unquote plagiarism. So I want to just start the conversation about how you transition from being, I'm assuming, a AI novice or unaware of it to where you are now. What was your educational background to take you from where you were to now being this AI enthusiast?
Yeah, good question. I actually started getting kind of interested in this at the end of last year. I discovered generative AI and started playing around with the tools. So it was very much, just putting a prompt into it and seeing what it did for me. That was the beginning. I got really excited kind of seeing the implications of these tools and thinking about how it could impact college admissions. And so I went out and said, let me see what's out there. Let me see what people have been doing in this. Let me find the experts. And pretty quickly, I discovered that there weren't a lot of people at that time talking about this specific to college admissions. And there were a few. Jeff Neal at the American School in Rio, he's been a voice in this for a long time, as well as Rick Clark that you already mentioned. I was able to find a little bit, but very little on this topic. So I then went to the expert organization NACAC, and wanted to see what they had, and also found that there just weren't resources there based on this topic. So I decided to start myself, to start creating those resources. And so that was really the catalyst. I started presenting at conferences. So I started, putting together proposals, and through that work, through getting those proposals accepted and then doing the work necessary to present at those conferences, I think that was really the start of me becoming an expert. I found that I really enjoyed this topic. It wasn't just something, this wasn't just work. This was something that really gave me energy in my day-to-day work, because I really saw the potential in it pretty quickly. I saw that these tools really could help people, help both students and educators in this, what is becoming increasingly more complex and opaque, the college admissions process. I just saw this as maybe a little bit of light in that maybe there would be a way that this could help, streamline this process, make it better in some way. So out of that, I kind of thought there must be other people that want to talk about this as well. And I started a NACAC special interest group. And that's a community that NACAC members are a part of, but it's even bigger than that. It's a community that's on LinkedIn. And that's, where a lot of my resources are shared. And then as well, EdHub.ai, the website I created to kind of tie, for that group. That's where people can, learn more about our advisors and where they can sign up for events and just a place for them to kind of learn more about this. So yeah, so that's kind of was the start of it. And that's where I am today.
Love it. Love it. So, our listening audience is majority parents. Definitely a lot of educators out there. Shout out to the educators who are learning. Not too many students, but I want all of us, to help to educate parents more about the college admissions process, right? Like I have a Facebook group called College Admissions Advice for Parents. Tim and I know that majority of our demographic listening to the podcast, but also reading our book are parents. So in your role as an AI college admissions expert, can you, how do you think the role of AI is helping or hindering, you can let us know, helping students to develop essays and applications? Like, what is their go-to to use AI for college admissions? How are students using it, and what do parents need to do to kind of put some guardrails around it or explore it?
Yeah. I think, there have been a lot of studies that have kind of looked at if students are using this, because that's where we're at right now. We don't really even know if our students are using this. And unfortunately, in a lot of situations, the educators at the front of the classroom, that doesn't feel like a safe place for many students to talk about, if they are using this or the ways that they are using this. So, but we have studies to look at, and there are, time and time again, those studies are showing that students are using it. So we know they're using it, but what we need to figure out is how they're using it. And the way we're going to figure that out is through creating safe spaces for students to come, to college counselors, to other educators, to show their usage. We know they're using it in the college essay writing process. That was actually the topic of 4 of my presentations this year at different conferences, is how AI could help in ethical ways in the college essay writing process. I think, the knee-jerk reaction is to think of people using these tools by putting the prompt into the tool and then asking for the output. And I don't think there's anybody out there that would say, oh yeah, that is definitely, that could be ethical. We all know that's not ethical. Asking generative AI for the output, well, I think will always be unethical. That's not, you're having it create the product, and that's bypassing the learning. But there are ethical ways that you can use these tools, but we're just at the start of kind of learning what those ways are. I mean, these are, we're all very well versed in Google and how you ask Google a question, but the way you ask generative AI questions, the way that you work with those tools is completely different than Google. And I think that's a big challenge that a lot of students and parents have right now, is just understanding the differences between Google and generative AI. So I've shown very practical ways how it can help brainstorm ideas. That's one area where it's just extremely useful. There's a number of college essay prompts that are kind of, if you've ever looked at the University of Chicago's essay prompts,
I have. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of those abstract questions.
I know they're very abstract, but we do know a lot of students, apply to that university and some other universities that use kind of these interesting prompts. In one of my conference sessions, I showed how you can take a prompt that a student might read and then, go to the next one because they just don't understand what it's asking, and use these tools to help them kind of break down what that prompt is asking, and then even delve deeper into, hey, these are the things I want to make sure are included in my application. Help me brainstorm some good ideas, some good topics, some things I might want to, write about. So again, this is not helping with that output. This is just helping them kind of with those beginning stages in the brainstorming process. I've also seen how it can be very helpful in providing feedback. So the student has done the writing is there, that is a product of the students, but a lot of students really struggle. They write an essay, and then in the end, the essay isn't really saying what they want it to say. It's not really, the message isn't coming through. And so I'm often, I sit with students often and ask them, after reading their essay, I say, what is it that you want the reader to know about you through this essay? Like, what are some strengths that you're hoping come through in this essay? And, wonderful if students have a high school counselor or a college coach, or a parent that can help them with that process. But as we know, many students don't have access to quality college counseling. And I think that's where there's huge potential for these tools to help students. So in that feedback stage, that student that doesn't have a qualified adult, an adult that they could go to for this help, they could get feedback from tools in that way, from these generative AI tools. So I've just been seeing lots of, a number of interesting ways such as that. This could be really helpful in the process.
No, I think that's important. Tim, let you shed some light on this. What is your initial thought about AI in college admissions? I mean, you don't have to give us the secret sauce of Emory, but just in your circles of college admissions? How do you think AI is being used, and how do you think it should or should not be being used?
I mean, I think AI is being used by a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. I think there are some students who are very lazy and are applying to a lot of schools and are using the prompts to answer it, and those responses are very generic, and you can see that they have been driven by AI. I think there are some other students who are being very thoughtful about it and using it to brainstorm. And so I think there are different ways that it's being used. I think, across the field, as been stated, there are a lot of people be like, what's going to happen with this? How can we tell the authenticity of the student in, this process? And I think, because of, the great work Emily's doing and a lot of others getting information, I think it's going to continue the way more we find out information. But I would say specifically for places like Emory, the University of Chicago's, the more selective places who have admit rates under 10%, is going to be very hard for a student to stand out with an AI generated essay. Like, those essays have to be so specific to that student, to like, what is that student sharing with us? Does that information match with what the teacher's recommendation says? Match what the council recommendation says, matches with what the students' activities are. So, part of reading an application, obviously the essay is one part of it, but it is part of a larger book. And do these things match? Is there general themes that we can see? So obviously, I think people are using it for different ways, but I would say specifically at the more, selective places like Emory, it's very hard for students to stand out using just AI generated material.
And that's I think that right now we are at this phase where AI is the worst it's ever going to be, right? It's only going to evolve. It's only going to get better. And I do think that a lot of educators in a lot of spaces ask themselves, am I going to be replaced, right? Can a computer teach a kid math? Can an AI teach build a college list for a kid if he puts in his GPA and his ACT SAT scores and says I want to be an engineer and I want to be in the Northeast, can it spit out through some algorithm or some large language model a list? Technically it can. So Emily, I put the question back on you. How do you see, or if do you see AI evolving within the world of college admissions in what you guys do, you and Tim, in terms of reading applications, quote unquote, but also just overall, where do you think its role is going to be as it gets older and more sophisticated?
Mhm. Yeah, no. Can I comment? I do want to just mention about something that Timothy said, and I think it's completely accurate that if you're using AI to generate that essay, the result is going to be lackluster and it is going to be bad. But what I've found is that when you're using AI to help you in that writing process, much like a quality college counselor, then what you can actually do is make sure that that end result is a better representation of the applicant. And I've seen that done, but it has to be done in a specific way. And right now the way that students are using it, many of them just don't know what that writing process is about. So if they don't understand that process and they don't have a quality college counselor working with them, and they're just using these tools to write that essay, then yes, I completely agree that that result is not going to be good. And admission counselors will be able to tell, that authenticity is not there. But yes, we are seeing more and more, essays that we think might be generated by AI, and these tools are really changing our role as admission counselors as well. But I do like to bring up the point there that we have been reading essays since the beginning of time that we thought were generated by
Somebody else.
counselors or outside help. We've known that's been the reality of college admissions, that some students, a very small number of students, have had access to either a parent, such as myself. I had a mother who was a professional writer, and she was able to really help me in that college writing process. And I know my essay was much better in the end because I had access to that help. Some students have access to really excellent college counselors in their high school or outside college counseling help. But that's been the minority of students. And I think moving forward, I'm hopeful that these tools could democratize good college counseling. That's my hope here. That we can, find ethical, good ways to make sure these tools are available to students who don't have the privilege of having quality college counselors. And I don't think this is ever going to replace a good college counselor at all, because a family is always going to prefer to have a human helping them. I mean, we want, humans want connection. I would much rather my child work with a person. So I'm always, when I'm presenting to rooms of college counselors, I say, really, I start with, the goal here is not to replace you. We need you. College admissions it needs you. I don't see that changing in, anywhere in the near future. But I hope these tools can not only, help students who don't have access to you, but also help you, like help college counselors do more meaningful work. Because what I found is a lot of college counselors have to close their doors to write letters of recommendations. In these months, they're spending hours, if not weeks, behind closed doors and sitting in front of their computer just writing. And I know that letter of recommendation is very important, but if we could find a way where that didn't take weeks, but instead just took hours, and then that counselor's door could be opened and for them to spend meaningful time with their students, I really think there's a lot of power in that. So I'm hopeful that it could even really help college counselors to be able to do more meaningful work. Shreem, I don't think I answered your question at all.
You gave us,
but I felt like that was an important, important thing.
you know way more about this than I do. So whatever you said is more important than what I had to say. Go ahead, Sid.
Yeah. So Emily, so you and I are at the beginning of this process of application review seasons. Obviously, there were some early deadlines that have passed, but the bulk of the files that we are going to read are ahead of us. And so knowing that, AI is out there, students are using it in any number of ways. What are some of the things that you're looking out for? What are some of the things that you suggest that college admissions officers and others who, CBO leaders that are in this profession, as students are handing them essays leading up to the January 1st deadline, what are some of the things that they should be on the lookout for to make sure that students are using their authentic voice?
Yes. Well, number one is, we as educators, as adults, when those students come to us, I'm really encouraging people to be safe spaces to talk about artificial intelligence. And I want to share a short story. Last week, I met a counselor I was up in Portland, and I met with a counselor. He has over 20 years of experience as a college counselor in this great private school up there. And he had read an essay by a student that he knew. He said, I was fairly certain this was AI generated. He said, but it was not bad. He said, this was an excellent essay. It reflected the student. I knew the student. I felt like it reflected the student. I felt like it checked, all those check boxes of what we, had trained the student to do. But reading it, I also was like, this student couldn't have knew the student well enough to know that the student couldn't have written that essay. That was the counselor's thought. But the counselor didn't know what to say. He handed that essay back and he said, this is a fabulous essay. This is spot on, move forward. And when I came to him and I talked about my work, he just said, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you're here. I've been feeling really like, that I didn't do what I needed to do as an educator. I needed to have a conversation about artificial intelligence and open the door to kind of talking about, hey, did you use artificial intelligence? How did you use that? He said, but I don't know how to have those conversations. So I think what's really important as educators is that we realize that we're going to read essays that we think were AI generated, and we need to be ready for what we say next. How do we want to approach that situation? And I think what we want to avoid is penalizing the student at that point. We are all this is new for all of us. That student, that might have been the first time the student had done that. The student might have been doing that since November 2022 and might have been receiving great grades on their assignments because of that use, and nobody had confronted them about it. I think it's important that we create spaces where we can talk with our students about this. So as educators, if you haven't already, you're going to see those essays where you're like, this is fishy. This is definitely, something going on. I don't think the student created this. What we need to do is, how are we going to talk about it now? Let's, and also I think we have a lot to learn in that conversation. I think had that counselor that I met with last week, had he sat down with a student and said, show me what you did, because Because he said, he was like, I was blown away. Like, how did he do this? I thought AI kind of generated junk, is what he said. I thought it was fluff, and that I would have told him, this is terrible, you have to start over. But he said, no, it was great. It was really, really good. And so, him sitting next to the student and saying, what did you do? I think that would have helped the counselors see, like, oh, okay, this is not ethical, or what part of this it looks ethical? How could we implement this strategy together, the good parts, and teach the student about how they might have been using it in nefarious ways as well.
Yeah, so I heard the term prompt engineering. One of my close friends, he has an AI company. They work on helping teachers develop a curriculum. And we were talking, and he says, yeah, prompt engineering. I said, what's that? What's prompt engineering? And he kind of walked me through that. So I definitely see how that could be a use to help people improve the use of AI to kind of have more well thought out essays and information that's spit out.
Yeah, no, I think the problem these days is people, like I mentioned, people think of ChatGPT at like Google, and they're not the same. And you know how to prompt Google. And that is, give me an answer. It's usually one sentence that you put into Google. You should see some of these amazing prompts that Jeff Neal is definitely a master prompt engineer. He's created prompts that are 15, 20, 30 sentences long and have multiple parts to them, and that do amazing things that he's using with his students right now to help them walk through the list creation process. Because if you asked Google, give me a list of 10 good universities that I could apply to, you can imagine what the result would be. It would not be useful for a student, right? In the same regards, if you put that into ChatGPT, that's not going to be useful. You need to give it so many more details. And currently our brains don't think that way. So that's exactly what you're talking about, Tim. Is like that prompt engineering is kind of like changing our brains. And I feel my brain changing as I use AI. I really do. I find myself, I'm getting better at it day by day. I know what it needs. I know how to tweak it. I know when I get a result that I don't like, it's not that AI is bad. It's that I'm using it in the wrong way. So these are extremely powerful tools. And whenever a counselor has told me like, oh, I used it, what came out was terrible, it's no good, I like to go back and say, show me how you used it. And what we usually find is that the prompt was faulty, that we missed some, really important things that have to be in the prompt in order for it to work with generative AI.
I've been using Grammarly for a long time. This is great information, Emily. We really appreciate it. For those of you who are just jumping on, it's EdHub.ai. It's an opportunity to learn more about how AI and the integration of college admissions is happening. But I've been using Grammarly for maybe almost 10 years. And although Grammarly initially wasn't AI, as least what we know it now, it made grammatical checks on submitted work. And I would do that like for my own work. Tim and I wrote a book together. We ran everything through Grammarly. And sometimes Grammarly can be too aggressive and can take out some of the voice that you wanted to have or some of the phrasing that you wanted to have. But I'm also aware that some AI detectors, as they're labeled to be, aren't that effective. Where do you stand on AI detectors, particularly for students or teachers who say, I wonder if this college essay was written with AI? Should they dump it into an AI detector? Should students, use AI detection before they submit it? Where do you stand on AI detectors?
Yeah, and unfortunately, the AI detection doesn't work because it's not 100%. So, you might hear, oh, it's 98% effect, it works in 98% of the time. That 2% of the time is a huge, huge problem, because who's getting penalized there? It's ESL, English as a second language learners. It's also, there's also found that it's students with disabilities, autistic students. The way that they write, it's much more, tends to be more formulaic, which can be kind of similar to AI. Those are the students who are getting caught in these AI detection, systems. And they don't work. They're very different than plagiarism detection, but in the past, plagiarism detection is looking for text that is exactly like another text. But with AI, it's just the way that generative AI works is it's just suggesting the next most likely word. And so each thing that it produces is slightly different than the previous thing. If you put the same prompt into Gen AI 5 times, you're going to get 5 completely different results. So it's much, much harder for those detection software systems to, to catch it. I was at a recent college fair and next to a representative from a small university in Southern California. And she said this last year, the reading cycle, they started noticing a lot of essays that seemed generated by artificial intelligence. Their population is very heavily international. And so they decided that they were going to start using Chat Zero, or GPT Zero, which is one of the AI detection tools. So they started feeding all of the essays through that. Their results, there were 40 to 50% of those essays, a very high percentage of those essays were coming back as having been AI generated. And so they all went back to the table because they said, this is a problem. Number one, even if that number of students are using AI, we can't throw all of those applicants out. We are then, left with not enough applicants. And two, is this actually accurate? And how would we ever know? Somebody at the table had an idea, and they ran and got a 2017 essay, a really good one. Everybody thought it was fantastic. They said, this is, what everybody considered a 5-star essay written in 2017. They ran it through GPT Zero, and it came back 67% generated by AI. And that's the reality of the situation, is, that there was no possible way that essay could have been at all generated by AI because it was written prior to AI. But just the way that some students write, the way that some people write is similar to AI, which makes sense because how was AI created? It was created based on everybody's writing. It sucked up every piece of writing that it could on all of the internet. And it's, predicting what you're going to say next based on the history of all of that writing. So I don't think energy spent on AI detection is worthwhile at all, because even if we perfected that today, like you said, this is evolving, it's getting better. Tomorrow it's better than today. Next week it's better than this week. It's just going to, even if we were at 100% today, which we will never be able to be at 100%, accuracy with AI detection. I really advocate for taking the energy that we put into that and putting it towards education, putting it towards, making sure students really understand, how to use these tools ethically. Cheaters will be cheaters. We will have cheaters. We are not going to eliminate cheaters. These are yet additional tools that cheaters can use. But I think, what we are going to find is that the majority of students understand that learning is important and understand that bypassing that learning is really just cheating themselves out of, what could eventually be a fruitful, happy life, a career that you don't want to cheat yourself out of that. So I think, we want to keep the focus on learning here and make sure that's our focus, not detection.
Thank you so much, Emily. I have a few more questions for you before we let you go. Number one is, do you recommend for educators particularly, but for anyone, I know you took the Coursera course. Is that what are the teaching? How do we as educators, as people, learn more about AI, about prompt engineering? I talk to my AI. Like I say, thank you. Can you please do this? This was excellent. Can you do more? And I just keep going back into it. But I would love to be better. How can I be you when I grow up as an AI expert? What are some of the tools or resources out there that people can use to become not just better with it, but then can facilitate conversations with it, particularly with students?
Yeah, definitely. I have a couple suggestions there. And I want to tell you one of my use cases right before this podcast. I was feeling, recording anything is always a little bit, nerve-wracking. And so I asked my, Chat GPT therapist for a little pep talk. I said, I gave it details of what I needed to do. And I said, I'm feeling uncertain about this, and kind of expressed a little bit of the, what my uncertainty was, and said, can you give me a motivational pep talk? It was so helpful. And it wasn't the first time. I do that often. And it's really like having someone in your corner there, just being like, and the words that it puts together are powerful and helpful. And anyone listening to that, try that. Just ask it for a motivational talk next time you're feeling anxious about something. Give it some details. Tell it what you're feeling anxious about. That was an interesting use case for sure.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
But yeah, I definitely recommend a few things. We are EdHub.ai and this AI in college admissions community is going to be doing a series of webinars in 2025 geared towards students and parents. I'm at least 4 of them, probably like a quarterly webinar for students and parents to introduce them to these topics, to help them kind of be able to start coming to the conversation and learning more about this. So that's one way. I will on my website. You can sign up there, so you're on our mailing list. I definitely recommend to do that. But we will also have that posted closer to the beginning of the year. There's some great resources out there. I already said Jeff Neal's name. I definitely recommend if this interests you, go check out Jeff Neal's work. He has an incredible newsletter. He's got a really good YouTube page, and that YouTube page has presentations that were geared towards students and geared towards families as well as educators. So check out some of his resources. And then any parents, if you are on LinkedIn, please join my community, AI in College Admissions. There's so many great resources there. And that's also where we're going to be posting all of the webinars that we're doing. So yeah, there are a number of resources there that might be able to help some students and families learn a little more here.
Tim, you have any final questions before I hit Emily with the final one?
I do. So,
I know you would. I knew you would.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, we all want to find out more about AI. Obviously it's a great tool when used in the right and responsible way. But is there anything that people who are skeptical of AI, is there anything that we should, be kind of hesitant, like, yeah, let's pump the brakes a little bit on its use, as we have this conversation?
Yeah, no, that's a really important question, Tim. And I'm often say, I want us all to be skeptical about this. I know, maybe up until now, it sounds like I'm 100% an advocate for this, but I am very much aware of we need to be careful with this new technology. And, I think so the way that big tech rolled out social media and the way that that was just kind of laid into the hands of our children without really knowing, what the effects of it were, that was not the right way. And what I'm hopeful is that we can get educators to be a part of this conversation, because I think right now we're at a dangerous place where students are using it and the adults in the room are not quite sure how they're using it. And the adults in the room are slowly starting to use it, but the students are running forward with these tools. So I definitely recommend that we, approach these tools with skepticism. I have, we're actually, one of the webinars we're doing in early 2025 is the ethics of AI, because there's a lot of educators out there that won't even begin having these conversations because of those ethical concerns. And I understand those feelings. When you're afraid of something, it's much easier to kind of hope it goes away and but the reality of the situation is this is not going to disappear. This is here. This is already pretty deep in, deep in a lot of the systems around us. So I think it's, if you are skeptical, if you are fearful, the most important thing that you do is start learning about it and start finding out where it is good and finding out where it is bad and talking about both with other people as well. So definitely skepticism is good. Cynicism is bad. That the inability to hear about this or to talk about this, that's a dangerous place to be in. I think, but it is good to be concerned and to bring up those concerns and to make sure those concerns are talked about. I appreciate those voices in the room when I'm presenting on this. It's because of a lot of those questions I've gotten at the end of my sessions from people that are really concerned about the ethics, that I then go forward and create other resources and I find other experts that can help us talk about those concerns. So be skeptical, not cynical.
Yes. So one of my favorite movies is iRobot. I'm not saying I'm Will Smith in iRobot.
No, the robots are coming. The robots, and that's okay. I want the Jetsons made. The maid I used to go on the Jetsons.
Did you see iRobot? Did you see what happened? Me
and Will Smith don't get along.
Okay. All I'm saying is the robots tried to take over and lock the humans up. Don't be that person, Shireen. Don't be that person.
It's inevitable. They had these movies forever. They had the foresight to see the robots are coming. Emily, we're gonna get you out on here on this. Thank you again for your time. Loyola of Chicago, University of Chicago is very fortunate to have you. but we want to tap into you a little bit as a parent. You have a child, and I'm curious to know, how are you teaching her to use AI? Like, what are the conversations you have with the child? I would love to know her age, but like, what's the way that as a parent, you can be a professional enthusiast and this could be a passion project. But again, as a mom, how do you kind of incorporate AI into your daily life or weekly life with your child?
Yes, yeah, I am a mother of a 10-year-old. I have a 10-year-old boy, and he
Excuse me.
yeah, I have a 10-year-old boy, and he definitely hears a lot about it at home just because of this being kind of what I like to do in my free time and finding all these kind of interesting uses for it. He actually hears it from both parents because he has a father who's working on a PhD as well, who has, found some really interesting and cool ways to use these tools in helping him, within that process. So I've often heard my son say to his friends, "My parents really like AI." And I wonder what those other kids, think about us. But
Or what their parents think about you, like, oh my God, the
I
cheating
know,
Pachecos. Oh my goodness.
I know, right, right. But it doesn't have much of a play these days in our lives. We don't spend too much time with it. We've done fun things with it. It's great for creating games. Gamifying anything. It's really good. And really, it's the creativity there, and it's amazing the things my 10-year-old can come up with because of the way his brain thinks. It's a lot of fun to play around and say, let's create a game and use AI to do that. He has a couple friends that use it in Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, that's incredible. Any parents here, if your kids are involved in Dungeons and Dragons, like Google how you could use AI for that. Dungeons and Dragons is a role-playing game, and there's just huge implications for making that really, really a fun experience. But I will say I am a little bit saddened that I don't see any talk about it in his elementary school. I know, we're early on this, but to me, that's a kind of missed opportunity. They do use technology. He is on a computer, and I'd like for those conversations about AI to start early, and I think they will be moving forward. Not that we want our kids, necessarily like using these tools in elementary school, but I do think there should be conversations around it. And I think, I expect he's going to be seeing this in middle school, and for sure this will be a part of his high school years. So far, minimal ways it plays into our lives. But what I think is going to happen is it's going to have more and more of a place, educationally for him as he gets older, for sure.
Understood. Emily, thank you. This has been a hot topic for us as educators, as admissions folks. I'm a fan. I have a whole chat with God on my AI. Like I talk to tell me about the color of Jesus. Tell me about I have these real conversations with my computer, and he spits out all these things of the questions I have about religion. So again, totally separate conversation. But I'm glad that you have your pep talk. Uh, with AI. I'm glad Tim is learning how to use it and not. I'm not saying anything for you, Tim, as much. I'll say that I'm glad that
you
you
are.
agree.
You were
I
walking
did.
up.
I already did.
You were
I'm
walking right
glad
up
you
in.
agreed. I had to pitch this to him of, look, I think this is really cool person in AI and education out there, and I think we should have her on our podcast. And again, he co-signed 100%, but I know that he and I sometimes differ on AI. So thank you for availing yourself to us. And again, we will continue to follow you. We want everyone to know, where can they find you? As again, just one more time, where can they find more information about what you do?
EdHub.ai is where you can find our group, and you can be connected with the LinkedIn group directly from there, and you can join our mailing list there.
Wonderful. Emily Pacheco, thank you for your time. Tim, as always, it's been a pleasure. Tim, hey, we wrote a book. Should we tell people about the book that we wrote before we
Hey, one of the reasons we wanted to write a second edition was you wanted to add a chapter. What chapter did you want to add in the second edition, Shireen?
I added a chapter about the power of writing essays and the importance of writing essays and how AI is used in the essay writing process. I'm a big believer in the brainstorming process, the bookends of it, the brainstorming and the proofreading. Like I said, I've used Grammarly. So I'm going to make sure that I continue to learn how to use it ethically for the brainstorming process. I'm not quite there with the feedback because I don't know yet, but maybe I will now with Emily's suggestion. But I never advocate for writing it. students with AI writing it, but I think it's the brainstorming and the proofreading. And yes, that was an important chapter in our book. Tim, what's the title of that book called, that second edition?
The Black Family's Guide to College Admissions, a conversation about education, parenting, and race. And that's needed more than ever right now.
Yes,
Dare I say.
Dare you say it in 2024. Emily, thank you. Have a wonderful holiday season. You're lucky to be in California where it's not as cold as it is on the East Coast. So enjoy time with your family and friends.
Thank you both. This has been so much fun. I've enjoyed it. Have a good one.
All right.
All right. Until the next time, we're out.
We're out.